December the 12th, 2016 at 12 p.m. And we have 4 items on the agenda. The first one is Annual Road and Street Financial Report by Troy Tymason, Finance Director. Troy.
Good morning, council members. We bring this to you right at this time of year so that we can submit it to the state of Idaho. This is one of the few reports that I bring forward that has negative numbers, which is good. That means that we spend, as a city, more money than the state supplies to us for the maintenance of our roads, maintenance of bridges, and repairs. In 2015, the state increased its gas tax, which is at 32 cents per gallon for cars and trucks. The city of Coeur d'Alene is a beneficiary of that increase, and now we receive over $2.2 million per year from this revenue source. This is very, very good news, and in so doing, we supply this information to the state that shows how we use the monies that they send us and how we use the monies that you approve for the maintenance of your streets, for the overlay projects, for the right-of-way acquisitions, a little bit of work on bridges that we have in the city of Coeur d'Alene. This included in here will be your chip seal program and things like that. So I am here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
Okay, need a motion.
I move for approval of the annual road and street financial report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2016.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Troy. Item number 2, amendments to Municipal Code 2-94 entitled Child Care Commission and 5.68 entitled Child Care Facilities. Kathy Lewis.
Okay, I'm bringing you forth some housekeeping for the most part, issues that we need to do with our Child Care Commission has recommended be adopted. We want to change the membership from the commission from 12 members to 9 members. We've had some difficulty keeping 12 on the commission, and we also changed the words of shall to may because sometimes our consistency of the membership changes from one type of category to another. So we changed that to shall to may. The third thing we wanted to do was on the appeal process, it says the commission will hear all the appeals, but in the duties section of the code, it didn't say that's one of their duties. So we're just adding that as housekeeping. The fourth one was something that has come out in quite a bit in the last few years. Our code currently says anybody that's ever been found guilty of a crime involving a controlled substance can never have a daycare license, ever. And so we found that a lot of the colleges and things, when people are younger, marijuana has been prevalent, unfortunately. And so we have a lot of people, we've had people come in with masters in child development degrees that are now 35 or 40, had a charge of possession or paraphernalia, or were at a party where they had a charge, and so it has not allowed them to get a child care license. So we met with the chief of police, with Chief White, and discussed this at great length, and we'd like to change the code to say in the subsection denial that would add an exception to the following, which is a 5-year limitation that there hadn't been a crime in the last 5 years, but only for marijuana and marijuana paraphernalia only. He strongly suggested that we stay away from any of the injectable drugs and keeping those as a permanent disqualification. So we are following that recommendation as well from the commission. The same thing, the appeal section of our code was very dysfunctional, I'll put it that way, if you tried to read it, what it really meant. So Randy Adams did some work on that to bring that into, make more sense and be more concise. And so number 6 was to talk about what conditions a child care could continue to operate if we decide to deny their license while they're in the appeal process. And then in number 7 would be to change that. Right now, if we deny a license or revoke a license, it's a 2-year waiting before they can reapply. The state currently has license that says that they may hold that license back for up to 5 years. And so we wanted to continue adopting consistent with the state, so to make that a 5-year limitation, using the word may. So if it's a minor infraction that, in a minor, we probably wouldn't deny a license, but depending on why we denied the license, revoked the license, have the ability to make that a 5-year. If it was something that's a really dangerous situation, we may want to make that a 5-year limitation before they could reapply for a license.
Okay, any questions?
Go ahead.
I have a question on a high school student being able to be a member. Is this similar or the same as a student rep?
The student rep, yes.
Okay. And on some of our commissions and boards, is the student rep allowed to vote and their vote
On
counts?
some they can, on ours they can't because it's a judicial proceeding with an appeal, and that's why they're not allowed to.
Thank you. That's what I needed. Okay.
I just had a question on the crime involving a controlled substance. Is this just, I know you put specific to marijuana, but I guess when you brought that up, what it reminded me of was there were people who might have gotten a minor in possession. Did this involve alcohol in your code?
It
For
does
those
not.
kinds of violations?
At this point, alcohol does not disqualify from a child care license.
Okay. So this is, controlled substance is just drugs of any other kind. That's all I had.
And the reason that originally was put in there was because it's more habitual, that harder to maybe not be a user. And so that's why that originally was put in the code. At the time, years ago, when that was put into code, we didn't see as much use of drugs as we do today. And then especially with it legal next door, unfortunately, it's changed the scene a lot. And so we've denied a lot of licenses over the last few years that are way more than 5 years ago. And so we thought it's time to maybe revisit this, and that's what the commission's recommending now at this point.
No, is this just because of drug usage?
It's more the marijuana use in the colleges and when teenagers and young adults, and a lot of people coming to work in childcare a lot older than that, and unfortunately it's disqualified them from forever working in childcare. And so we're going to relax a little bit if you approve it, so that if they've not had a crime in the last 5 years, then we would allow them to, if it's strictly marijuana, then we allow them to have a daycare license, a
So
child care license.
it doesn't pertain to alcohol at all?
No.
Okay, need a motion?
I move for the adoption of the proposed changes to Municipal Code Chapter 2.94 entitled Child Care Commission and Municipal Code Chapter 5.68 entitled Child Care Facilities.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, Kathy. Okay, item number 3, approval of a scaffold ordinance related to a unpaid parking citations.
Thank you.
Deputy Administrator Sam.
Thank you, council member and council members. It's good to be here today. Well, after the marijuana thing, this should go really easy, I think. Before you today is an ordinance that's been worked on for at least more than a year by the city's parking commission in collaboration with the Downtown Association, who are very frequent guests at our meetings. This has been worked on by actually multiple attorneys now with the city. We've had some changes, and part of the reason why I think it took so long was the change in legal staff and kind of who was dealing with this. And then obviously my coming on board as well, so getting me up to speed and moving it forward. So the city obviously over time has had some challenges with collecting on unpaid parking fines, as well as ensuring that folks follow all of the rules that have been set in place under the city code by the city council related to parking. Parking is obviously a finite resource throughout the downtown, and one big goal of, I think, the city as well as our downtown merchants and chamber and the association is to ensure that we have healthy traffic flow and parking flow to allow as many guests and residents as possible to come downtown and both enjoy our amenities as well as shop and continue to help the local economy. Recently, we began to enforce collections of our parking fines, and the city council approved that program whereby we are working on a backlog of the last 3 years of parking citations, and then we will be start moving forward from here on out on unpaid citations every 30 days or so. Another issue, though, is that we know some people will not pay their citations regardless if they're sent to collections. There are some people who simply don't care, to put it bluntly. And so the Downtown Association and the Parking Commission believe that it is inappropriate to also have a physical enforcement mechanism in immobilization devices, which are very frequently called boots. Boots are relatively inexpensive, and they are the common way that municipalities and private entities enforce physically related to parking fines and violations. There are some municipalities that will place boots for things above unpaid parking tickets, but this system is only regarding unpaid fines. So the way that this system works, as recommended by your parking commission, is if a scofflaw vehicle has more than 4 citations, 4 or more, over a 45-day period or longer than a 45-day period, they would qualify to be placed on what's called a scofflaw list. That list would then be placed on the website, and that ensures that that person could, or anyone in the community can go check to see if they're on the list. And it provides them with important due process if they feel they should not be placed on the list because they either didn't own the vehicle when the citations were issued, or the citations maybe were voided and the system just didn't catch that. They can then appeal that being placed on that list. So that's an important check on this system to ensure that people have a right to challenge that and ask questions. If they remain on the list, then as the parking enforcement folks go around the community, particularly in the downtown, they identify one of these vehicles, then they would qualify for a boot. The device would be placed on their vehicle, and they would have 48 hours to pay all owing citations. If they fail to pay those citations, they then would be towed from that area by the city's typical contractor, which is Schaefer Towing. And they would then have to pay all their citations in order to get their vehicle out of impound. Obviously, with this, we need to ensure that we can have these placed, so this system would require updates to the contract with Diamond Parking, which is our contractor for parking enforcement. They currently are not paid for this service or do this service for this community, so we would need to recognize an update to their contract. I haven't brought that forward. I haven't brought forward any fee schedule update for new fees related to getting boots or having them removed, nor have I brought anything forward related to towing, a new contract with Schaefer to recognize this work, to remove boots, because I want to make sure that the council approves this first. If you choose not to, then we would not be bringing those updates forward, obviously. So that's the nuts and bolts there of this ordinance. There's both the appeal process for the scofflaw list itself. There's also an appeal process for when you have the boot on, you can challenge the boot. So it's the same process. Really, the issues come down to, do they have 4 or more tickets? Were they the owner of the vehicle when the citations were provided? We can look that stuff up through the state's DMV system. We have access to that as a municipality, and we've had that for a bit since we started doing collections. So that's the ordinance. The Parking Commission unanimously recommended approval of this, and the Downtown Association is a rather proactive supporter of this as well.
I have
Go ahead.
several questions here. How many individuals or how many boot instances do we anticipate a year?
We're not sure yet. Part of this is the list of people owing citations is shrinking every day because people are paying on their unpaid citations. So at the end of the year, we'll have a better feel for how many people. Likely, it'll probably still be substantial. We've collected $20,000 of about $350,000 unpaid. And now that $350,000 also includes out-of-state people that we haven't been able to get a hold of yet. So say half of that are in-state people that we are collecting on. We sent out 8,400 letters, so that's 8,400 motorists. We could probably see 1,000 people that might remain on this list that would qualify for this program. But I genuinely can't speak to exactly how many, because especially this month, we're going to probably start seeing an influx of people coming in and trying to pay off.
So I remember when I was serving on the Parking Commission, this was discussed at length, and I had visited with previous council members from years ago, and it was discussed in the past as well. But so a question that comes to mind is there other options available? For instance, when a vehicle is abandoned, I believe it's the PD puts the big obnoxious sticker on it that's really hard to remove and is problematic to the vehicle's owner. Is there other options such as that aren't as severe as the boot, but still would get attention from the vehicle owner? I mean, were those discussed?
During this recent process, they weren't discussed. I think probably because they've been discussing this for a year, so I'm not as familiar with the early discussion. I can say based on kind of the initial experience we've had with collections, if folks don't have a problem being sent to collections and having their credit impacted, I'm not sure a sticker necessarily would do it. But it's always up to council. If you feel this is too severe and you want to try other options first, we can have the commission discuss that. I will note, part of the boot process too is a very obnoxious sticker also on their vehicle to ensure they don't remove the boot or hurt their vehicle. And it explains the process for how to get the boot off and how to appeal and all that.
And so to dial down to a very basic level on this, the individual would receive the boot only when parked in the downtown? I'm trying to figure out the downtown association's advocacy of that. I mean, I understand, but if the vehicle was parked in their private driveway, would they get the boot there? Could they get it, or is it only when they're in the downtown could the boot be applied?
It's pretty much only downtown because Diamond is our parking enforcement contractor, and they only manage downtown parking. So that also, currently, that wouldn't even include Fort Grounds. We don't have full enforcement from Diamond in that area. Their contract basically ends right at the edge there at Memorial Field, at that parking lot in the City Hall, or the City Museum parking lot, and then spans all the way over to about 8th Street in some places downtown.
Thanks.
And I should also make clear, Diamond they enforce on-street public parking. So if it's in someone's driveway, they're not going to receive a boot in their driveway because this is about being on the public right-of-way.
You got most of mine. I had one, though. What is the system by which the city can assure that the owner of the vehicle knows that they're going to be guaranteed that they were informed that they're going to be put on the scofflaw list?
Mm-hmm. The list is the informational piece, the main one. That list is designed to inform the community that they could be on it. But obviously, we're going to do education in the press, on our social media, on our website to ensure that people are very aware that this could be occurring. And I'm going to be very proactive working with the local media, particularly TV, because we know a lot of people watch it, to ensure that folks are aware of this story. And based on the feedback we received during the collections process, many people were aware that that was coming prior to the letters even being sent out. I've spoken with more than 400 people now on this process. It's been a lot of work, and other folks have just called me on their own to say, I heard this was coming. I've been waiting, so here's, I'll give you my $50.
My question's kind of more specific to this example. If I owned a vehicle and I had a spouse and, say, 2 teenagers who drove the same vehicle and collectively got parking tickets, I may not know that they all got parking tickets, and then all of a sudden would see my name and my vehicle on the scofflaw list. So what's the process to assure? Which one? How do you guarantee that the owner of the vehicle knows that they have received, that vehicle has received parking tickets and is going to be placed on the list?
Thank you for the question. Another part of the process is we are sending letters to them to inform them. And we're doing that kind of double too, because moving forward, a lot of these people probably will continue to get tickets. And so when folks owe us money, and these folks have not been paying, we will be sending them a letter inviting them to pay within 30 days. Otherwise, they'll be sent to collections. And within that letter, we would also inform them that if they qualify, we would be informing them that they're on the scofflaw list as well, and that could signify a boot.
And so that letter's going to go to the address of the registration holder on the vehicle?
Good, correct.
Okay.
And to be clear, that's something people sometimes don't realize. It's only been a few situations where someone has said, my child got these, not me. These tickets go to the vehicle, so it's always going to be the responsibility of the registered owner. Reflexively, we've also had many parents saying, dang it, my kid, but here's the money.
Yeah, so. Exactly. But I would hate to have them publicly embarrassed without the opportunity to clear that up. So
I have one more, sorry.
No, I don't think my kid has any tickets, so I think I'm okay. But you never know.
Just drop by City Hall anytime and check, and we're happy to help.
I feel like it's a fine balance between collecting money from the tickets and then a drastic measure of enforcement. And I'm curious of the conversation that happened for this ordinance right after our major attempt to collect tickets, and whether or not we're going to see an increase in individuals paying their tickets just from that effort. They know that the city has taken drastic measures to start the collection process, and was there any discussion on the timing of this? I mean, or was this deliberate for this to follow right after our increased efforts in ticket collection?
They didn't really discuss the timing in terms of let's see if people are going to start actually following the rules now and hold this. They really were, I think the discussion more centered around, we continue to know that people are not paying, and those people don't care about going to collections, so there needs to be kind of a diversity of enforcement related to that. I think that's where the discussion may be centered. But that's a valid point, to try to study, are we going to see can we analyze increased revenue from fines in that way? As of now, I don't think we receive just money information on fines collected. It's all one big revenue collection information that we receive. Is that accurate, Troy? It's a spreadsheet. It doesn't really give us detail on this is the fine amount, this is this. It's just this is the revenue that came in on behalf of the city of Coeur d'Alene. So it might be difficult to track, but we could try to see if there's an uptick in.
And that's provided by Diamond?
Correct. Yeah.
So we could ask them to line item it out?
We can ask them if they have the capability to do that, if they track it the same way. Right now, we're not receiving it in that way.
Any other questions? City Attorney, is all this legal and upright and the boot and everything like that?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
There are a lot of due process protections in the ordinances drafted. There's plenty of notice given. It's only for the most egregious offenders. They have appeal process. So yes, many cities boot, and including, I think, Spokane. So it's been around for a while.
Okay.
Was there discussion, one other thing was, maybe the stickers brought it up, but I'm not sure, but I heard there was discussion regarding a barnacle versus a boot. And was there some not legal process with a barnacle or no?
No
It's
issue
just a
there.
different material?
The product's actually not out yet, is one large part. It is also more expensive. Their price point's about $500 per barnacle. And that's a new technology that they've been going to trade shows and showing it and getting people excited, but it hasn't been out yet.
Okay.
They were hoping by the end of this month to try to get them out, but I have not heard. It's actually very difficult to get a hold of that company. It took me 3 times before I heard back finally for them to tell me that it wasn't out. The boots are, $160, $180, so it is definitely less expensive.
And the way the ordinance is drafted, it's only a mobilization device, which is defined as
so
a
it can
boot
be
or anything
changed.
else. So it can be changed without going through a change in the ordinance.
Do you need a motion?
Well, I would recommend that since our parking commission approved it unanimously, that we approve the scofflaw ordinance. And then does there need to be a direction to staff to move forward with the fee structure and the rest of the work you need to do?
I don't think so. Once you approve this, I'll bring those items back to you as
Okay.
well.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, approval of contract with Ken Sparing for a new piece of artwork, Undercurrent,
Thank you,
at
Council.
Riverstone Pond.
Thank you, council member. So your Arts Commission has been working really hard for a long time now on getting a new art piece in the Riverstone area. This piece, they've kind of outlined a 400 square foot area near the Riverstone Pond there, right at the parking lot for Riverstone Park. So when you drive in, the spots facing the pond, you would see this piece just to the left of a stand of trees. They went through a process of a selection committee where we do a call to artists and get as many as we can, and then that committee whittles it down typically to a top 3. It's a points-based system, so they all have a rating sheet, and they just rate their favorites out, basically, and then they send their recommendations to the Arts Commission. At the same time, we also have a great public process where we take the 3 maquettes, which are the miniature versions of the top 3, and place those in the library for the community to vote on the pieces, and it's a pretty neat process. Based on the feedback from the community and the selection committee recommendation, the Arts Commission unanimously recommended approval of Undercurrent by artist Kenneth Spearing. He's an artist out of Spokane, I believe. He's a teacher at a school there. And you can see a picture of the piece at the very last page of this portion of your packet. You'll see a picture of the maquette as it was sitting in the library. It's pretty gorgeous. And I know it wasn't necessarily the easiest selection this time because we did have at least 2 pieces that were pretty amazing, also both fish themed. This obviously fits in with our sense of place here in North Idaho related to our wildlife. The piece is quite large, about 9 feet wide, 12 feet long, and 11 feet high. Those fish themselves are nearly 4 feet long, and so it's quite large. The canopy itself will have those large steel beams going up before the canopy, and so it's likely in many ways it'll be interactive because I could imagine children will play around it or on it, and that'll be fun for them as well. The timeline for both finishing construction and installation would be the end of October in 2017. That is an elongated schedule. Initially, we were hoping for March 2017, but based on feedback from the artist, the Arts Commission agreed to allowing for an extension of the time frame. They are a very proactive group. They definitely wanted it earlier, but they also understood the constraints of this person who is a teacher, who has a full-time job, and the amount of effort he'll need to do this. So much of his work, he'll start in January should you approve this, but much of his work will occur right as school gets out, and then late fall we'll get it up. The budget for this piece is $69,000. That is paid for through our funding from Ignite CDA, our urban renewal district, specifically their river district section of the district. Every year, Ignite provides the city with 2% of its budget from both districts to public art within those districts. So we are continuing to ensure that we're good stewards of those funds and using them because they want us to. And so with that, staff recommends approval, as does your Arts Commission.
Any questions?
Nope, I think it's a great piece, and I think it'll be a great addition to Riverstone.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay, need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed Undercurrent project for Riverstone Public Art.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thanks, Sam. Okay, anything else? We're adjourned.